first off, I want to say thank you guys for being here, for being open-minded, and honestly being awesome engineers. So we've been talking about this for a little while now. We work on something called Quirk. It's a streamer platform designed to help streamers. The idea is that it has a bunch of different utilities built into it, things like bot services, the ability to send out go live notifications, do scheduling, all these other things. And as we've grown as a stream, Quirk has grown with us. The interesting thing about Quirk up until literally now has been, it's been hosted in my garage. So yeah, we're moving to the cloud. We finally were able to work and pick a provider we wanted to go with. We are going to be doing a 5 to 6 episode series. We're not doing one video. This isn't just one sponsored stream. We're literally partnering with this company to take our platform and put it on theirs. And secondly, we are going to be refactoring Quirk heavily. Another thing, we are going to be replacing everything that exists now, basically as a cloud service. I want to see how far I can go with not having to manage the infrastructure as I can. So yeah, let's talk about Azure for a second. They don't have everything yet, right? But they're growing, which is really interesting. When I looked at Azure, I was like, okay, there's some cool stuff here that's really neat. Okay, this could solve some of our problems. It seemed to really solve a lot of the problems that I needed. Azure's actually like getting a lot of traction right now. They're building really good software. They're building really good options. And in all honesty, I told you guys a little earlier that I did actually investigate Azure, and that's because I did. After all that being said, let's go ahead and let's get started. So when you land on that link, you're going to get sent to a page like this. Obviously, you do get the $200 credit as well. That happens from the day that you start. And so you can see here, there's a bunch of different stuff that you can do, all that kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. This is all whatever. But this is the part I wanted to talk to you guys about. So this is the free stuff. Free stuff's dope. Linux virtual machines. So you get 750 hours of a B1S standard tier. You have a $200 credit right now that you could just mess around with and be completely fine with not getting charged for anything. You have a month to figure out what you like. 64 gigabytes times 2. This is something outside of your normal disks. Let's be clear on that. These are high performance disks. These are like database disks and stuff like that. So you don't really have to be super worried about this one in particular because the Linux virtual machines, that's going to basically cover that one. But yeah, so anyway, so once you sign up, you get directed directly into your portal. And so I'm going to go ahead and send us to there now. I'm already signed in and boom, I'm now in my portal. Now you're going to see here, we have a ton of other things. That is because I've already started setting up some things, just some things. You're probably just going to see this, and it's probably going to say something like Azure Subscription 1, I think is what it's called. You can change that name. So first and foremost, no, you can change that name. But the more bigger thing is you can actually have multiple subscriptions, which is really cool. And so if we look at this for a second, you'll actually see that if I wanted to, I could come in here and create a new subscription and immediately have access to it. So what does this mean, chat? What does this mean? This means that I could have like 5 different credit cards in here, right? And automatically start provisioning my resources to these specific credit cards. It's got the granularity to where I can literally tell it, I want this instance and this subscription, but then I want this instance and this subscription, and so forth and so on and so forth and so on. And that's actually really powerful when you think about it from like maintaining cloud infrastructure, because most companies make billing actually really difficult. And that's one of the reasons why they make their money. Now, as you can see here, our subscription is Alta4 LLC because that's our company. I have my owner role, and then in it, I've got 16 cents right now. So I've got 16 cents that I've used, and that's really it. So if I click on this, what you're going to see is a complete breakdown of the subscriptions here. And you can see immediately, I can cancel the subscription if I want to. I can rename it. You can immediately see that they're already giving me like a nice breakdown of basically my pricing. If we talk about just like a plain and simple, like wanting to be able to see your billing, wanting to be able to manage your billing, all that kind of stuff, like I genuinely really like how they set up their subscription methods. My goal with you guys is I want to show you guys how to set this up on everything. We're going to go through PowerShell, we'll go through Linux, we'll go through Windows. All right, cool. I just signed up for Azure. I'm on the platform. Well, what do I do now? Right? Like, what do I do now? The first question I had to ask myself is literally the question that VTCN asked, which is, how do I connect to Azure? Like, I understand that I have the portal, but like, I'm not normally a portal type of person. I'm an engineer. And so with a little bit of searching, we can actually do Azure CLI. They have availability for Windows, Mac OS, Linux, and then actually Docker, and then their Azure Cloud Shell. But let's talk about them a little bit. So say you're on Windows. Remember that this is Microsoft, right? Microsoft makes Windows. PowerShell has a plugin for the CLI. Here it is. Install Azure PowerShell. So basically, if you don't want to have to install their CLI and you are a PowerShell user, what you can do is you can actually get the Azure module that has all of that built into it. And so you could start using PowerShell to setting that up. This is a little bit more lower level from the normal CLI. If you are somebody who uses PowerShell and you want to automate things with PowerShell and stuff like that, then you can do that. So let's go ahead and let's set up the CLI on Windows first. So I'm just going to click download the latest release. It's going to ask me to save the file. I'm going to click yes, click this. It's an executable. Yes, that's fine. I'm going to accept, install, going to ask me, and we're going to go through the process. I like the fact that this is very simple. So let's give this a few more seconds here. And then if you notice, it basically says that once you've got it installed, we're going to run AZ login. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my PowerShell now. And there we go. So now I'm in my PowerShell. Let me go ahead and move this right here. And let's do AZ login. So I'm going to do that, and that should trigger, my email. I'm going to click on this. You have logged in. Perfect. I'm logged in. And there you go. You can see I've got my tenant, my ID, my tenant ID, and everything else that I need. So now at this point, I am logged in with Azure. I am good to go. And this response right here basically tells me that I'm signed in. So at this point, I should be able to do things like AZ help. And there we go. I can see all of my Azure commands here. Let's see if I can pull a resource group. So let's just do AZ resource groups. Now, I'm not even trying to read the command line right now. I'm just like, okay, I know I want to find resource groups, and I'm just throwing commands at it here. I don't even know what the command is, but it says, hey, did you mean resource? Try this as your resource list. So let's try that. Resource list. Oh, well, look at this. This is literally every one of my resources. That's actually pretty dope. I can do a bunch of really neat things with this resource group. So for example, if I clicked on cost analysis, I could see that right now in this resource group, just this resource group, I have accumulated about 16 cents, and we can see the service name in particular is Azure DNS. Now this resource group only has Azure DNS for it, which is fine because it's a resource group full of my domains. But you can see here, not only that, but I can see it, telling me like what is being used. And so actually you guys should be able to, unfortunately, it's kind of hard to see because of my camera and stuff. So I'll move this over here for you. But if we scroll down, you'll even see that it gives you the ability of seeing per resource what you're charging. So let's talk about this again. Real chat, we're not even building infrastructure yet, and we're already getting like really cool stuff out of this, which I really like. If you think about it from an Amazon perspective, this would be ridiculously hard to do. It's not easy to manage and look at a specific resource cost analysis or a group of resources in Amazon without basically having to go through a bunch of filters and doing a bunch of different like tagging. Like you have to do it yourself really to do it the right way. Instead of having to go into like a high level explorer of like my subscription even and being like, okay, like what's the breakdown for my whole subscription? I can go to the resource group itself and cost analysis it. I can do alerts off of it. I can do budgets and a bunch of other things like deployments and a bunch of other things. So like that is really powerful. Like we're not even talking about, again, infrastructure. We're just talking about how it's maintained. So let's talk about a little bit now how we can do some more with the CLI. Again, if I do Azure group list on PowerShell, I can see that I've got, that. So if I do Azure, let's go back to help. Let's do VM, manage. Okay, so AZ VM list. Probably same thing, right? Yep, same thing. So very, very straightforward, very reproducible, very simple. Interesting. Azure search. Oh, you can search services. Okay, so what if we did search and then we did like Kubernetes subcommand? Okay, what else we got? Oh, interesting. Okay, so this will give us a list of what? Resource group. Oh, interesting. Oh, so I can search. Oh, that's dope. Okay, I did not know what that did, but now I understand what it does, and that's actually pretty cool. Okay, so what this allows you to do is basically search within your own resources for a specific thing. So say, for example, I was like, oh, what is the ID of that one domain I needed. I'm wondering if I just do Alt F4 email, then I should be able to search for it. Let's do AZ search and then help, search Azure services, admin keys and query keys. I wonder what services are. I'm kind of curious. I'm going to go down this road for a second here if you guys will follow me, because I'm kind of curious on what this does. Okay, never mind. I'm wrong. Let me reset. This is a service. Okay, let's go take a look at this really quickly. Search. Oh, it's an actual service. I did not know that that was a service. Okay, so if you want to add searching to it, you can. Okay, I thought that was something else. It's not. Let's keep moving on. The Linux one is a little bit interesting. I know a lot of us out here are Linux users, so I do kind of want to go over this one really quickly. I use Arch Linux, right? If you look here, we've got Debian, rel, zypper, and an install script, but we have no Arch on here. So you might ask yourselves, well, hey, BG, how did you get it installed? I actually did the good old fashioned way, which is I just did Arch Linux Azure. And if you search that, you will see that there is an AUR repository, or a Yay repository, basically, that you can install it with. And so if I go here and then I go here, I should be able to do this. And sure enough, you can see that Yay, if you use Yay-S Azure CLI, you can install it on Arch as well. So for anyone who's using Arch or anything like that, or using Yay, you can easily use a package manager like that to install it. If not, you can use the package managers that they have as well. And so yeah, you can see here that now I have the Azure CLI being installed. If you have Debian, very simple, just install it via the package manager. Same thing for rel, OpenSUSE, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, if you can't install it through anything, they still give you the install script here. And you can see here that it is recommended to install it package manager, but if you can't, run the script. At the end of the day, no matter where you install this, your goal is to essentially always get to that AZ login stage. So let's move forward. So we've got our CLI installed now, but what about the SDK? So say, for example, I wanted to start, I don't know, doing some stuff with Azure. How difficult would it be to me? Like, what is their SDK support like? So let's go ahead and look at that really quickly. A lot of cloud providers basically give SDKs. So let's go ahead and go to that right now. So we'll say get the SDK. We'll click on that. Boom. Here we go. So this page contains all the links to SK library packages. Basically, it looks like their libraries are split up into a bunch of different modules. So what we need to do now is we need to pick what we want to interface with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just click on NPM. Okay, so Azure Storage Blob is Microsoft's object storage solution for the cloud. So let's do this. Let's go to CD, desktop. We'll say make dir Azure SDK test. CD, Azure SDK test, touch index.js. Awesome. I'm going to open up my NeoVim. We're going to grab this. I'm going to say NPM init, do all of that. Yes. And then I'm going to do NPM install -s save. Okay. So again, many of us have probably done this at least once or twice before, where we've installed, some type of cloud SDK to upload files to the cloud. So environment for the setup. So we've got default Azure credential. We've got blob service account, import the package. Okay. We'll do that. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's mv index.js to index.ts. It seems like they're actually wanting to use TypeScript. So we're going to have to get the Azure identity package. So let's go ahead and add that one, which honestly is pretty straightforward, like is pretty standard. Normally these would be separated into their own packages. So it's really not that big of a deal. So let's do this, add this here like this. We would need to create a storage account. So let's just go ahead and do that really quickly, right? Like we can, no big deal. Go to portal. Their object storage name is storage accounts. So I'm going to click on storage accounts. Boom. Okay, cool. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at a list of storage accounts. So let's create one. So yeah, you can see my subscription that I'm adding it to, my resource group, my location, the name, all that kind of stuff, blah, 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 all good to go. So let's hit create. So when you create something in the portal, you actually get sent to this neat little like deployment page. But now you can see, boom, it's done. Go to resource and we can see here now, here is my test account basically. So let's go ahead and go back here. And now that we've created that, let's say our account in this case was what I call Alt F4 test. Okay. Blob service client. What are you doing? Copy. There we go. Okay. So at this point, I have a service client and I'm passing it my default Azure credentials and I'm doing Alt F4 test.blob.core.windows.net. We're good with that. I'm not going to worry about any of this other stuff. We're going to go down, async function, main. Look at you guys creating main functions. That's cute. All right. So we'll say const container name equals, and we'll call this my sweet container. Const container client equals blob service client get container client and then container name. Okay, and then we're going to create the actual container itself. We'll say const create container response equals await container client dot create. After this is done, it should say create container successfully with a container response. Because this is JavaScript, we actually have to fire our main like that. Now at this point, what this should do is when I run this, now it could fail because I don't know if my credentials are set up properly. It could fail, but if I run this, I'm thinking we should see a container appear in here. So let's go ahead and do this, and we will do ps node, node index.js. Oh wait, index.js. Hey, all right. So if I click refresh, my sweet container. Look at that. Let's actually utilize that. So I'm going to go in here, see stream test, say I want to be done with all this, click on it, delete resource group. If you look here, you'll see that it says, hey, warning, you're going to delete it. And here's all the resources inside of it. If you want to, you better put in the name of the resource group. So I'm going to type in stream test, hit delete. And right as I do that, it's immediately going to start deleting the resource group. Let's take a look at a little bit more of like the dashboard. So portal, I like it. I like that they went for cleanliness. I like that they went for ease of user. I also like that they're like really focusing on training as well, you know, trying to get people on the platform, comfortable with the platform and stuff like that. Yeah. And again, for somebody like me who's coming from another platform, I like the fact that I can be like, okay, show me your networking options. Show me your container options, right? There's my container option. Like, I like that. That's very relatable and nice. I like that a lot. So let's talk about something that we all use a lot, which is Terraform. Terraform Azure. I've already set this up. I've already done this, but we can go ahead and go through it again. What you need to do is you need to follow a couple steps. You can configure Terraform using the Cloud Shell. So you can actually do Terraform in the Cloud Shell if you want to. You can do it in the Cloud Shell. Or if you want, you can do it via a VS Code configuration or a VS Code extension or PowerShell or in a Linux VM. All you need to do is you just really need to access it via the Azure CLI, because that is exactly what Terraform uses. We're going to go in here and we're going to take a look at their example. So create a base Terraform configuration file. Now here, it basically just says, hey, you give the Terraform provider, the Azure provider, and then you start doing, you know, whatever you want. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to say touch main.tf. Now remember, I've already authenticated with my CLI, so I should not need to do any of that. So I'm just going to copy this whole block here. Again, all I've done is authenticated with my CLI. So if we talk about every step that was required, signed up, I installed the CLI, basically got it running. So we're going to call this super awesome group. And we're not going to worry about a location. We're just going to call it that. And the name for the module in this will just be super awesome group. After doing AZ login and doing my out login, I'm going to do Terraform in it because we need to initialize Terraform first. So now I'm going to do Terraform plan. There we go. So now if I wanted to do apply, yes, done. For every DevOps engineer out here or out there who deals with Terraform, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? Log into the cloud provider, get your access credentials, start running Terraform. So again, say I want to get rid of this now. We're going to delete the resource. We're going to do Terraform plan, and you'll see it's going to be destroyed. We'll do apply. Yes. And really quickly before that gets deleted, let's just refresh. There's my super awesome group, but you can see it's being destroyed now. There we go. Cool. So it's deleted. So now I hit refresh. Okay. So there it goes. And there it goes. Perfect. So we've officially set up our CLI, initialized Terraform, set up a basic resource group, applied that resource group, and then removed that resource group pretty much no problem. So I actually have been really curious about Azure DevOps for a while now. Create an Azure DevOps organization. Cool. So we can get into actually doing some stuff here. Go to dev.azure.com, click the start free button, sign in, create an organization. So we're going to go here and we're going to say, okay, so get started with Azure DevOps, project name, continue, Azure DevOps organization. Cool. So now I can create a bunch of other stuff. The project name for this one, we'll call it Quirk, right? Because this is the Quirk one. And it could be public or it could be private. And then the version control, you can have Git or you can have Team Foundation version control. We're going to use Git because that's what we use. And then the work process is basic, agile, CMMI, and Scrum. Agile, and we're going to create our project. So let's go ahead and click on Quirk. Here we are. We're in our project, our Quirk project. This is actually pretty nice. Like, I like the user interface. Oh, so those are dashboards you can create. Oh, and then there's wiki too. Oh, dang. That's pretty nice. All right, so let's go to boards. New item. What should be our first item? Create migration plan. If I click on that, we can see that it's unassigned. I can assign it to myself if I want to, and it's in the state new. It's unassigned, no comments. It's under quirk iteration 1. And instead of creating a migration plan, what I'd rather do is let's go ahead and actually add something that we're going to need here. Change type. Okay. Task. That's what we want. So let's make it a task. Boom. Task 1, create migration plan. So we'll say create repositories. We will save this. We will assign this to me. We have our first task. It's in iteration 1, and the priority on this bad boy is 4. It is the highest priority. We got to get this thing done. This is going to be development. And then in here in the description, we'll say we need to create the quirk service repositories for the following services: Discord bot, command, encoder, mailer, portal, and this is a library, Twitch event sub, Twitch event sub subscription, IRC, Twitch hub sub, Twitch bot command, Twitch bot hub sub. Finally, WebSocket. So now if I go to boards and then I go to features, there it is. And so you can see here, create repositories. And so if I click on this, we can see the children of that. So let's go back to here really quickly. So we've got boards, backlogs. Let's go to repos really fast. Because remember, we need to create repos. Oh, quirk is empty. Add some code. Or let's go back to repos. Wait, no. Oh, here we go. New repository. And so we'll call this one API. Add readme, get ignore. Oh, that's kind of cool. Your repository will be initialized on a main branch. Okay, so we're going to create a repository and it's going to be called that. So we'll create repository creation in progress. Okay, cool. We got a readme. Go ahead and close this a little bit. And we got that. So we just did that. So now what I can do is I can go back to boards. And here's where we've got create repositories, API repository. Click on that. We will need to create the API repository for the service. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to repos really quickly. And then I'm just going to copy this. And then I'm going to go back to boards, API repository. And then I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to say created new repository at boop. And then hit enter. And our work has now been completed. So now if I go back to boards, our boards, state 1 out of 3, bam, API repository is checked off. We will definitely do more with Azure DevOps. There's a lot here. It's definitely very interesting.